So this is part 3 of my teacher portfolio presentation, and in this part I kind of wanted to discuss some of the challenges that I faced during it, and then how some of the dispositions and things that I had. One of the number one things that putting my portfolio, one of the challenges that I faced is that I had taught this prior, so it had been some time since I had actually taught this material. So some of the things that I remembered were a little bit sketchy, and some of it I had to do was approximations. So I found that a little bit difficult. Some of the other things that I found difficult was actually really realizing that some of my struggling students I kind of let go by the wayside. If I set my goal as 75% proficiency, and that meant that I didn't have to have 3 or 4 students proficient, those ones that struggled, it was easy to be tired. And like I said, in part 2, I taught 5th period, which was the last class period of the day in a 70-minute class. So the young students got a little bit squirmy, but I think as a teacher, I also started watching the clock a couple times and getting anxious for class to get over. And as I go back and reflect on some of that, it makes me recognize that as a teacher, my job is to teach the entire gene pool, no matter what student is placed in my class. And it's really not acceptable to think, well, they're not really getting it, and it's so much work to try to get this student to where they need to be. I'm just going to call it a day, so to say. And that was one of the things that I did not like. One of the really effective things that I did in class was allow the students to have fun with math. This is an activity where they get to draw a slope man. So right here we have this 0 slope, and here we have this undefined slope, and here we kind of have this negative slope, and here we have this positive slope. So you can see this key right down here where this student was able to remind herself of what slope was. It's a change in y over the change in x, and the notes that she made so that she could make this slope man. And this was kind of an engaging way for the students to really visualize and think about and hopefully make connections. If they have this line y equals -1/2 x plus 2, their line really should be coming down from left to right. And I wanted them to be able to stop and pause and maybe make some of those connections and have an opportunity to see those things. Another super fun activity is this foldable activity. So this is a little envelope, and these are the inserts that go into the envelope. They're just colorful pieces of paper cut out from the cut machine at the school. And so on this, we made 3 separate envelopes, and this was just a great summary review. Music on, students working, see if you can summarize and also really get a feel for what we're finding and what it looks like. This is generally this is every time what is happening when we see no solution. So we'll have 2 lines that are parallel to one another, and I am looking for parallel lines when I'm graphing. Elimination, I line them up. I'm looking for matching coefficients. I add or subtract to eliminate, and this number does not equal this number. I have 2 numbers. I have 7 and -5. I have 0 and 1. I have 2 different numbers. And so there is no solution. There is nothing that makes those 2 equal. And when I substitute in, I'm going to single out an x or a y. And then by solving the equation for X or Y, and I substitute it in and solve, and I again get this idea that this number does not equal this other number. And so it was just a, quiet work with your partner, write down again how to use these methods to solve. And we did a foldable for no solution, for one solution, so when you get the ordered pair, or really what we were finding 95% of the time, and for infinite solutions where you just would have one line and your graph, you line them up and your number does equal your number. So with infinite solutions, there was always two matching numbers, and that was something we were looking for. So this was a good way to engage the students, to give them something that they could be successful on with very little effort, but it gave them an opportunity to feel prideful in their review. They had these little packets, and even the boys had the scissors and the glue, and the music was on, and asking again, wait, what are we doing? What are we doing for elimination? And the students able to shout out and have a fun way. It was fair for all of the students. They were able to look at the examples. It was something that I hoped gave them a sense of success going into the actual review for the test. I love to be positive with my students and find ways to celebrate their strengths in math, and tell them how glad I am that they're working hard, and try to bring in that culture into my classroom, that they're competent and that I care that they're competent, that I want them to be proficient. And so, like I said, as I reflected back on this, that was one of the things that I definitely would have and will try to do, is be aware. Some of the weaknesses overall in the unit is I needed to be more aware of just algebra mishaps. I don't know, I keep telling them that they're breaking the law, and I need to just start assigning tickets for not appropriately factoring or not appropriately distributing, and that was just against math law, and they had been ticketed. But I wish that I had really focused on that, because they'll solve all of this math, and they'll have this half a page of elimination or substitution or rearranging the equations to graph them, and with one small error with a negative sign, we end up getting a completely wrong answer. And so that was frustrating for them, making them feel like maybe they didn't have a skill that they did have. They just were missing, one of the easier algebraic steps. One of the strengths and celebrations was that the engagement level was very high throughout many of the activities. And I'd like to say the whiteboard activity, we had 100% engagement when they were writing their favorite emoji, but we had almost 100% engagement throughout that, as they really started to practice and identify, okay, is this going to be no solution? Is this one solution? Is this infinite solutions? Can you graph this line? Can you find this point on the graph? We found ways to celebrate and have the students have a success. If I had it to do over again, I would keep better track of what I was doing. The one thing I would do again is the routine. The notes gave the students a way to refer back where we do not have math books in the classroom. It gave them a way to look back and practice. The worksheets were short, and it gave them an opportunity to see if they were understanding or not understanding, and something that I've found as I've been doing my master's is oftentimes I'll watch the instructor go through something, in calculus especially. I would watch the instructor go through it and I'd think, oh yeah, that's so easy. I have it, I'm ready, and then I would get on to do the assignment and I would find that I had questions and that I did not find it easy. And so something I wanted for my students was for them to understand that I knew how that felt. That as I was doing it in something that seemed routine, um, while they were watching me, they felt empowered, but they would have questions, and that was okay. And it didn't mean that they weren't going to understand it. But we learned line upon line, and it was kind of fun. I got to give them an example of my little girl who's in kindergarten, and she was trying to do a math problem involving zero, and it was just blowing her mind. She could not understand how 7 plus 0 would be 7. And we had tried using examples of getting pencils and crayons. And, every time I thought she'd have it, then I would say, okay, so what's 3 plus 0? She would, 5, you know. And of course my students chuckled, and I said, but there was a point where that math, that fundamental math of 2 plus 0 was difficult. And it's not now, because you have practiced, because you have learned. And although this system of linear equations is difficult, it's tricky, and it involves a lot of steps, there will come a point where you're able to see this, and you're still going to have to write it out. It won't be the same as maybe 5 plus 0, but it will be, oh, okay, I'm graphing. This one has 2 of the same lines. That is an infinite number of solutions. Or, oh, these 2 lines have the same slope. They are parallel. I have no solution. Or, oh, I can see that this one's coming in negative, this one's coming in positive, they start at the origin. This is that, there is a point of intersection, and it made them feel a little better as they recognized that they do know math and they can learn math, and it does not come overnight. And that was kind of fun. I really enjoy working with the other math teachers. I was the only girl in the math department as an educator, so the students had 2 brilliant men teachers, and then they had me, and that was fun to be able to bring a different perspective and almost an idea of needing to care for the basic needs of the students, um, for their mental needs. And if I could if I could um, if I could continue doing what I did with the bell work and the notes, the whiteboard practice, the worksheet, and a few hands-on activities, in an ideal world, I think my classroom would go very smoothly. I think there was a positive culture. Students came in smiling. One day they kind of came in cranky, and we did this fun. Everyone back out in the hall. Let's practice coming into math class. I want to see smiles. I want to hear some yay math. And they all laughed and rolled their eyes, but it was funny because over the next few days they came in with a yay math, and as they watched down the hall, if I was in the hall, they were able to say woo math, and celebrate learning. And I think that's really where it is at, and really what I hope for students. So thank you for taking the time to watch my video about my professional portfolio. Again, my name is Annette Belknap, and I enjoyed teaching this math, and I hope to teach math for many more years. Thank you.